I want to tell you something that took me years to fully accept. Every dollar you spend is a decision. Not just about what you're buying today, but about who you're becoming financially over the next decade. Most people treat spending as a series of isolated choices. I treat it as a system. And when I look at that system honestly, especially in 2026, I see 10 categories where the math has completely broken down, where what used to be a reasonable exchange of value has quietly turned into one of the worst financial moves you can make. I'm not going to moralize at you. I'm going to show you the numbers, because the numbers don't care about your feelings or your habits. They just compound, in your favor or against you. The question is which direction you want them moving. Let's go through all 10. The first thing that is no longer worth your money is food delivery. I want to be precise here because this isn't about convenience. Convenience has a price, and sometimes that price is justified. The problem with food delivery in 2026 is that the price has become completely disconnected from the value being delivered. Here is what actually happens when you place an order. The restaurant marks up its menu prices inside the app, sometimes by 15%, sometimes by 30%. Then you pay a delivery fee, then a service fee, then a bag fee in certain cities, then taxes on top of fees, and then you're expected to tip a driver. By the time the food arrives at your door, you have paid somewhere between 40% and 60% more than you would have if you had simply gone to the restaurant yourself or called ahead and picked it up. I've spent time studying how compounding costs work across a portfolio. Food delivery is a compounding cost working against you. If you order delivery 4 times a week and you're paying $12 in fees and tips each time, that's $2,500 per year after tax dollars, which means you had to earn closer to $3,200 or $3,500 to produce that $2,500, depending on your tax rate. That's not a rounding error, that's a meaningful number. The alternative is simple: pick up your food, call ahead. Drive 5 minutes. The meal is the same. The experience difference is negligible. The financial difference over years is enormous. The second item that has stopped making financial sense is buying a brand new car on a long-term loan. I want to be clear about what we are actually talking about here. A car is a depreciating asset. The moment it leaves the lot, it begins losing value. That is not a flaw in the system. It is the fundamental nature of the asset. What has changed in 2026 is that the combination of elevated interest rates and inflated vehicle prices has made financing a new car one of the most expensive mistakes a person of average income can make. The average new vehicle price in America is now near $50,000. At a 7% interest rate over 6 years, the interest cost alone exceeds $11,000. You are paying $11,000 for the right to own something that will be worth roughly half its original value by the time you finish paying for it. And during the early portion of the loan, many buyers find themselves in a position where they owe more on the vehicle than it is worth. If you needed to sell the car or experienced a total loss, you would still owe money after the asset was gone. Here is the alternative I believe in. Buy a vehicle that is 3 to 5 years old with between 30,000 and 50,000 miles in cash or with the smallest possible loan. The primary depreciation has already occurred. You are buying a vehicle that someone else absorbed the steepest part of the cost curve on. You get reliable transportation at a fraction of the new price, and you preserve capital that can be deployed elsewhere into assets that appreciate rather than depreciate. Third on the list, the annual phone upgrade cycle. Every major smartphone manufacturer has built a business model around the idea that you should feel your phone becoming obsolete. They release a new model every 12 months with incremental improvements and market those improvements as transformative. They are not transformative. They are incremental by design because the goal is not to give you the best possible phone. The goal is to give you a slightly better phone every year for the rest of your life. If you are currently holding a phone that is 2 or 3 years old, I want you to test it right now. Does it make calls? Does it run your apps? Does the camera capture a usable photo? If the answer to those questions is yes, then the honest answer is that you do not need a new phone. You want one, and I understand the desire. New products are appealing. But desire and financial wisdom are frequently in conflict, and you have to decide which one is running your decisions. The math on holding a $1,000 phone for 4 years versus replacing it every 2 years is a savings of roughly $500 every 2 years, or $250 per year. That number sounds small until you realize that $250 per year invested in a low-cost index fund over 20 years, assuming an 8% average annual return, grows to over $12,000. Your phone upgrade habit, repeated over time, cost you $12,000 in future wealth. That is not a dramatic overstatement. That is arithmetic. Only upgrade when the specific capabilities of your current device can no longer meet your actual needs. Not your wants, your needs. The fourth item is one that hits people in their long-term wealth directly: actively managed mutual funds. This is a topic I feel strongly about because the damage here is slow and invisible. It does not feel like a loss in any given year. It accumulates quietly over decades, and most people only discover the full cost when it is too late to recover it. Here is the core issue. An actively managed fund charges you an annual fee, typically between 0.75% and 1.5% of your total assets, in exchange for professional stock selection that is supposed to outperform a passive index. The evidence on whether this actually works is not ambiguous. Over long time horizons, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, the overwhelming majority of actively managed funds fail to outperform a simple low-cost index fund that tracks the broad market. Not most of them, nearly all of them. The fee difference matters enormously at scale. The difference between a 0.03% expense ratio on a passive index fund and a 1% expense ratio on an actively managed fund applied to a $500,000 portfolio over 30 years at 8% annual growth is over $1.2 million in terminal wealth. That is not performance risk. That is fee drag, a guaranteed, calculable, preventable loss. If you have a 401k or an IRA, go look at what you are invested in right now. Find the expense ratio of each fund. If any of them exceed 0.25%, ask yourself whether there is a lower cost alternative available. In almost every case, there is. Move to it. This is one of the few decisions in personal finance where the right answer is clear, the evidence is overwhelming, and the action required is simple. Fifth, extended warranties. Extended warranties are one of the highest margin retail products that exist. That fact alone should tell you something. Retailers and manufacturers price extended warranties the way they price them because the expected value of the warranty, what you are statistically likely to collect in covered repairs, is significantly less than what you are paying for it. The margin exists because buyers pay more than they receive on average. That is not a cynical interpretation. That is the structure of the product. There is also a practical issue that most people overlook. Many premium credit cards, and by premium I do not mean exotic or expensive, I mean cards like a mid-tier travel card or a solid cashback card, automatically extend the manufacturer's warranty on eligible purchases by an additional year at no additional cost. If you are paying for an extended warranty on a product purchased with a card that already provides warranty extension as a benefit, you are paying for coverage you already own. Beyond that, extended warranties frequently contain exclusions. The specific failure mode your device experiences may not be covered. The warranty may have lapsed in your records by the time you need it. The retailer is not hoping you use the warranty. They are hoping you forget about it. My approach? I do not buy extended warranties. I understand that occasionally a product will fail, and I will absorb the replacement cost. That expected cost, spread across all purchases, is lower than the sum of extended warranty premiums. The math favors self-insurance. The sixth item is broader and more cultural, but the financial implications are real: the wellness industry. What I am talking about here is not health. Health is important. Sleep, nutrition, movement, stress management, these matter, and I take them seriously. What I am skeptical of is the $7 trillion industry that has attached itself to health and sells anxiety as a delivery mechanism. The formula is consistent. Identify a fear, create a product that addresses the fear, price the product at a premium that signals seriousness, and market the outcome without being required to prove the mechanism. The $30 morning smoothie at a wellness cafe. The $400 cold plunge subscription. The supplements that promise cognitive enhancement with no meaningful clinical evidence. The wearable that generates data you do not know how to act on. These products do not target the unhealthy. They target people who are already reasonably healthy and are willing to pay to feel like they are doing something more. The things I believe actually drive long-term health outcomes are not expensive. Consistent sleep. Daily movement, even just walking, whole food nutrition, manageable stress. These are boring. They do not make compelling content. They do not generate revenue for anyone. And they work. I am not telling you to deprive yourself. I am telling you to be honest about whether what you are buying is actually improving your health outcomes or whether it is buying the feeling of improving your health outcomes. Those are different products. The seventh item is the one that generates the most pushback, but I will make the case clearly. In 2026, purchasing a starter home in most major American markets is not the financially optimal decision. I want to separate two things here. Home ownership can be a good decision. In certain markets, at certain price points, with the right timeline and financial foundation, buying a home is entirely rational. What is not rational is buying because you believe you are supposed to, or because renting feels like waste, or because you have been told that owning is always better than renting. The numbers in 2026 do not support that narrative. Mortgage rates are currently sitting in the 6.5% to 7% range. Median home prices in major metropolitan areas have not corrected meaningfully. The result is that the monthly cost of ownership, principal, interest, property taxes, insurance, and maintenance, substantially exceeds the cost of renting a comparable property in most large cities. In some of the highest cost markets, the premium for owning over renting is $2,000 to $3,500 per month or more. The counterargument is equity building. And that argument is valid. Over a long enough time horizon, in the right market, with appreciating home values, home ownership builds wealth. But the time horizon matters. If you are going to stay in the same property for 15 or 20 years, the math changes significantly. If there is a real possibility you move within 5 to 7 years, the transaction costs of buying and selling, typically 6% to 10% of the home's value, may fully consume any equity you accumulated. My position, if you are not certain you will remain in a location for at least 10 years, and if renting would leave you with meaningful monthly savings that you will actually invest, renting is the financially superior choice in 2026's environment. The eighth item is status spending, and I want to talk about it honestly rather than just criticizing it. Every social organism develops signals for status. This is not new. What is new is the scale and cost at which status signaling operates in 2026, amplified by social media and the constant visibility it creates. People are spending money they do not have, on things they do not value intrinsically, to impress people they may not deeply care about, in service of an image that requires ongoing financial maintenance. I am not describing edge cases. I am describing a widespread pattern that I believe is one of the primary drivers of financial stagnation among people with otherwise sufficient incomes. You can earn a genuinely good income, $80,000, $100,000, $120,000 per year, and still make no meaningful progress toward financial independence if the gap between income and spending is consumed by status maintenance. Here is the test I apply. Would I still want this if no one could see it? Not in a social media post, not at a dinner, not in passing conversation. If it were entirely invisible to everyone but me, would I still want it? If the honest answer is no, then what I am buying is not the object or the experience. I am buying the social signal. And social signals are one of the worst investments you can make because they require constant reinvestment and they never compound. Spend on things that have real value to you in private. Be skeptical of purchases whose primary appeal is their visibility. Ninth, fast food, which I include here not because I have anything against it culturally, but because the value proposition that originally defined it has largely disappeared. Fast food was built on three pillars: speed, consistency, and affordability. Speed and consistency remain. Affordability has eroded to the point where it is no longer meaningfully different from casual dining in many markets. A combination meal at a major fast food chain in 2026 frequently runs between $12 and $16. At that price point, you are $1 or $2 away from sitting down at a local restaurant and eating food that was prepared fresh by someone who cares about their restaurant's reputation with higher quality ingredients. The gap in experience is substantial. The gap in price is nearly gone. I understand there is a convenience argument. Fast food is fast. But at $14 for a meal, you are no longer making a budget decision. You are making a convenience decision. Call it what it is. And then decide whether that convenience is worth the premium over cooking at home or eating at a local establishment that costs nearly the same and delivers meaningfully more. The exception, which I will acknowledge, is a small number of operators who have held the line on value, but they are the exception, not the rule. The rule in fast food today is high prices for low-quality food. The original deal is over. 10th, and finally, concerts as a regular spending category. I want to be precise. I am not saying never attend a live performance. Live music is one of the genuine pleasures of being human. I am saying that the economics of the concert industry in 2026 have fundamentally shifted in a way that requires recalibrating how often you attend and what you expect to pay. 10 years ago, a ticket to a major artist's show in a large venue cost between $50 and $100, and that felt like a significant but manageable expense. Today, the same tier of show frequently requires $200 to $400 per person after platform fees, and that does not include transportation, parking, food, or drinks at the venue. A night out to see a major artist can easily approach $500 to $600 for a single person. Several forces drove this shift simultaneously. Demand that was suppressed during the pandemic years was released all at once. Certain events normalized astronomically high prices, and social media spread the normalization broadly. And ticketing platforms that operate with limited competition have structured their fee models to extract maximum value at the moment of highest buyer motivation, the exact moment you commit to attending. What I recommend, be selective. Reserve your concert spending for experiences that are genuinely significant to you, not every moderately interesting show that your social circle is attending. And explore smaller venues. A $25 ticket to see a talented artist in a 200-person room is frequently a better experience in every dimension except the name recognition of the performer. The sound is better. The crowd is engaged. You are close. The economics are rational. Be intentional. Not about deprivation, about getting real value for what you spend. Those are 10 categories where I believe the math has broken down, where what used to be worth the money no longer is in 2026's environment. I want to close with the principle that underlies all 10 of these. Money that is spent is gone. Money that is invested compounds. The difference between financial independence and financial stagnation for most people with adequate income is not how much they earn. It is the gap between what they earn and what they spend and what they do with that gap. Every one of the 10 items on this list is an opportunity to widen that gap, not because you have to deprive yourself, but because every dollar that does not go to a food delivery fee, a new car payment, or a status purchase is a dollar that can be working for you at 8% per year, compounding quietly, building towards something real. I want to hear from you. What have you cut from your own budget over the last few years? Or if you disagree with something on this list, tell me why. I read the comments and I take pushback seriously. And if this kind of thinking is useful to you, I have a video that goes deeper on one of the most expensive traps in this list, the new car payment, and what the full lifetime cost actually looks like. I'll link it at the end of this video. Thank you for watching. Peace.